Hello and welcome to the New Year 2021 Wednesday night modeling, texturing, asset building, CG Spectrum stream. Yeah, welcome back. It's been a while, but I'm back now. Yeah, same bot, different year. Gonna keep on chucking on this thing. We're getting to the fun part. We're getting close to the end. This is when we get to that. We've laid all our base work. We've done all of our modeling. We've done all the texture work. Now is where it gets fun. I'm Bryan Bentley, for those of you who don't know me, for the CG Spectrum Wednesday night modeling stream. I'm the department head of modeling at CG Spectrum. For all your modeling needs, go to cgspectrum.com/3D modeling. We have all sorts of classes. We have modeling, we have animation, 2D and 3D. We have concept art, we have effects, we have compositing. So if you're interested in making movies, video games, advertisement, motion graphics, come check us out. Welcome to the new year, 2021. I feel like strange, like everybody was like, oh, 2021's coming and 2020 is going to be done. Now it's the same stuff. It's the exact same thing. I was like, oh, I should like just drop the robot and do something brand new. But no, I'm gonna keep my robot because I want to finish him. I have a litany of zombie projects. Is my New Year's resolution. I need to finish projects. Yes. 2020 was a prelude to 2021. I agree. Okay, so this is where I've done minimal work on this since the last time we looked at it. The only thing I've really done is, if I remember correctly, I left off, I think, yeah, I was like in the middle of doing something here, so I can get rid of this. Let's delete this. I'm just gonna delete that. Okay, so I think the only things that I did between the streams is I added this sun damage layer. Yeah, so I added this sun damage layer. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna solo this. Actually, yeah. So I added this sun damage layer, and I instanced it across everything. So let's see. Instance. Yeah. So if you so it seems I built it in 11 and instanced it everywhere else. So if you double click on this little on this entry here, it'll take you to the original. So here's my original sun damage. Now how I got these instances is you can right click and you can say instance across all texture sets. Beautiful way to work procedurally in a kind of pseudo non-procedural system. It can be procedural. You can be very procedural. It's just, no one really thinks about it. Okay, so how did I make the sun damage? So I'll remake this real quick. It is a pass-through layer, and I touched on those. I fumbled through those a little bit. So let's do this. I'll just go ahead and remake this. Let's see. Yeah, okay. So that's without the sun damage. You can see it's a little strong. I feel like I made them a little bit too dirty. But the great thing about these pass-through layers is I can pull back. I can control the strength of this as much as I want. So I'll show you how I made that. And I think I already did pull it back. So I'll make another one. Okay, so the first thing to make a pass-through layer, and I had to learn this the hard way, is I use fills for almost everything that I do. Like I use fills all the time. So what I want to do is, and so I've tried to make a pass-through layer with a fill. Your pass-through layer cannot be a fill. And this makes sense because a pass-through layer is just like if you have a stream. Sorry, I moved my camera in between the stream, so I keep on gesturing this way, but my camera's up this way. So if you have a data stream coming in, a pass-through should just be nothing, right? It should just kind of pass through it and and then spit stuff out the other side. Now, if you have a fill layer, there's already data there. So you're going to have this data coming in, and it's going to hit that data that's in the fill layer. So you have to have an empty container to sift that data through. So I'm going to make an empty paint layer. So I'll call this sun damage. Actually, instead of sun damage, let's do No, I'll do sun damage. Okay, so I'm going to take this and I'm going to set it to pass through. Now, and you can see it turns into this like kind of like wacky thing here. And this is, I put this on my base color. So what I want to do with this pass-through layer is I'm going to take and I'm going to put a filter on this. And so the filter I really like for doing stuff like this is HSL. So HSL is another way to describe where's my EpiPen? Is another way to describe color. So color, most people usually think in red, green, and blue. R, G, and B. Okay? So there's a bunch of other ways to describe color, especially in digital land, right? Just like you can describe weight in pounds or stone or ounces or grams or whatever. It's the same thing. It's describing the same phenomenon just in a different way. Now, HSL is great because if I want to lighten or darken a color, but I don't want to change its actual color, right? That's what HSL is great for. So I can darken it or lighten it, and the color and the saturation stay exactly the same. So I find it way, way more artist friendly, and I wish someone would have told me about this when I was in school. But so I'm gonna say add. I think it's under filters. Add filter. And I only want to apply this to my color. Yes, add filter, and then there's and I can never see it. HSL perceptive or perspective. Yeah, perceptive. HSL perspective is perceptive. And so this HSL perceptive, now if I start to change my hue, right, I can go disco. So this is really cool. Like if you want to make a bunch of different variations of the same kind of asset, and you just want them to be different colors, you can just do this. All right, so I can have a blue guy, and I can have, so let's say I was doing like a battle royale game or something. I needed a bunch of different team colors. I could do this. I could not only do this, I could do this in my shader graph too, or in my gaming engine as well. So, but I don't want to change my hue, so I'm going to put that back to 25. What I do want to do is I want to take my lightness up. Actually, I want to do sun damage. Yeah, sun damage. The sun lightens things, so I'm going to take my lightness up. And let's see, if I take my saturation down. Yeah, I'll take my saturation down. And I can give it a little bit of a hue shift. Maybe just towards like a brown. There. Cool. So what this is doing is this is applying this HSL perspective to the entire thing. Now, I only want this to be applied to the top here. So now this is where our masking comes in. And you can see I have a sun damage as a mask right there. So let me collapse that. So I'm going to say add black mask. And masking is one of those things, it's amazing. Like most of visual effects, I can't talk for gaming, but most of visual effects is about building masks. I'm working on a side project, and I'm building we're making a character, and I have all these blend shapes, and I have to make all these masks for these blend shapes, so that some blend shapes happen in some places, and some blend shapes happen in other places. That's what chroma keying is, like green screening. It's just building masks. That's what rotoscoping is. It's building masks. So learn to work with masks, because you can be kind of sloppy when you work with masks, and you can still get a good result. And we'll see that more when I go into my decals. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I want to say, so I could go into here. So I'll show you the easy way, and then I'll show you like the very specific way. So I'm going to do, let's do smart masks. So there are all these smart masks in here that you can use, and I think there is one that's literally called sun damage. There's ground dirt, which you could invert. Let's just do ground dirt. Drop that on there. So here we can see, he's like super dusty. So most of that dirt here is on the ground. There's a little bit up top. So immediately we get like looks like he's been out in a gross dust storm. So This is made with the mask builder. It's a preset for the mask builder. Now this is legacy. A lot of these are legacy. So the one that we want to use is the generator. So, but if you need something quick and quote unquote, haha, dirty, pun intended, you can do this. So this looks a little more like dirt at this point than sun damage. So maybe I pushed my HSL. Maybe I pushed that a little bit too far. Yeah, that looks more like sun damage. Right, it's like the same. It's the same color, but it's just faded. And maybe I've gone a little bit too far as well. So maybe just pull that back just a little bit. Okay. So the great thing about this is with these mask builders, you can usually do an invert, and you get the opposite. Okay. So that's not really giving me what I want. So so let's clear this out. Let's delete this. Go back to the holistic view. Or actually, nothing. We're not going to get anything because I have a black mask there. So what I can do is I'm going to do add. And so there's a bunch of different ways you can do these masks. You can do fills, you can do bitmaps. I could do add generator. And let's see if I can find a generator. Let's see. There's dirt. There's dripping. There's fiberglass. I think there's sun damage in here. Somewhere. There's curvature. And there's lights. I can build it myself. Probably going to build it myself. Fiberglass. Dripping dust. Dirt. All right. So I'm going to go with my mask editor. I'm just going to click that. And I want to see exactly what my mask is doing. So I'm going to Alt and click on my mask. Okay. So by default, and the mask editor is a beast. It has so many like little bells and whistles on it. It's insane. So by default, it's pulling in curvature, right? So we can see here, like wherever it's curved, where there's high curvature, this mask is being applied. Sorry, my dog's barking. So I don't want that. So I'm just going to turn that off. So I'm going to go all the way back to black. So what I want is the direction, right? So I want anything that's facing upwards to get this mask. So I can go and I'm going to do, it's going to be, where would it be? It's not a texture 1, texture 2. It's not ambient occlusion. It's not curvature. It's probably in your normal, because your normal gives you the direction that things are pointing. So I can draw that out for you real quick. So if you have a surface that goes like this, your normals are vectors that go like this. And I can derive a mask based on how much. So if I have a vector that's pointing almost straight up in the air, that's going to be 1. If I have a vector that's pointing down, I can say make that 0. So 1 is white and 0 is black. So that's how I'll build my mask. Okay. So let's see. Where was I? I wish they would kind of color code these blocks, because it's kind of really hard to see where one starts and where one ends. It's very confusing. But anyway, so I want to say I want to turn on my world space normal. So it's world space normal opacity. I'm going to turn that all the way up. And by default, top to bottom is turned on. So if I look all the way at the bottom, I look all the way at the top. Now, this is really soft, right? I want to localize this mask to just the top. So I can do that. If I come all the way up to here, I can change my balance. So I can push this up and down. And I can change my contrast. If I want a really sharp line, I can turn my contrast all the way up. And now I almost get a toon look to this. Really simple. So I'm going to do... I want this to be really, really high. So just like the top stuff that's getting hit by most of that sun is going to get this color, this discoloration here. Right. So now if I go back to my sun damage, now we can see that sun damage is just on the top here. But this is really boring. This is really, really boring, right? It's just a regular mask. So there's 2 ways that you can add add variation to this. You can do it inside the mask editor, which I tend to not like to do. I like to have my mask editor just build my base, and then I do more layers on top. But if you want to do it all in one spot, you can. You just need to go to your mask editor, and under this texture 1, texture 2, right, we can tell texture 1 opacity, or texture opacity, and texture 2 opacity. Now, this is one thing that I really don't like about the UI of this. Let me pull down world space normal. You're defining the opacity of texture 1 and texture 2 here, but you're defining texture 1 and texture 2 way down here, which is confusing. So for texture, I'm just going to do this one at a time. So texture 1, I'm going to go and I'm going to get just a grunge here. Let's do grunges. And the other thing I did over the break is I finally got my texture library set up. So you can take and you can use your own assets inside of Substance. If you go to let's see, it's in Documents, Algorithmic, Substance Painter, Shelf. If you start dropping assets into there, so if we look here, Shelf, Textures, should see these start to come in. Mine are a lot, so it has to load them every time. But you will after a few minutes, you should be able to see all your textures on your shelf. So let's kill this and kill this. So here under Algorithmic, this is the one that comes. This is all the data that comes with Substance, and then down here you have this is my shelf and texture. So I have a few environments that I've put in here. Right, so here's some. I had a big library of HDRIs that I had bought or just grabbed anytime somebody had a free HDRI. So I put all those in there. Just this crazy psychedelic one here, and then I have under my textures, I have all of my and I've gone and organized all this a lot. So I've bought a lot of textures over the years, and also just kind of collected ones. And if you're out and you're taking pictures, think of just throwing them into your texture file and see what happens. So so I'm gonna go to, let's see, I have these 16-bit grunges, and I'm gonna go to dust maps. That sounds good. It's gonna take a minute for these to load. Actually, while these load, I'm just gonna go ahead and use a grunge because oh man, I can't think. The procedure is still the same, so I can always swap those out later once they're done. Okay, so let's go with let's see, grunge. Doesn't really matter. Let's go grunge really dirty. So let's go texture, drop that in. Now the thing is once I put this texture in, right, it's still not doing. You're like, it didn't do anything because you have to come all the way back up here and turn on texture 1 opacity, and now I get those spots and those dings. So under texture 1, I can say what's my blending mode. So by default it's overlay, but what I want to do is I'm going to, and just like Photoshop, I can do an add, right? I can do a multiply. It's going to take away most of it. I can do a subtract. Ooh, I like that subtract. So basically I'm digging away, I'm pulling data away from this. So that's actually quite nice. So I can do my scale. I can change my scale. If I want this really small, so I'll do this. I'll make one really big texture. We can bring up the contrast. Right, and then I want some littler ones here, like some really fine details. So this is kind of like a big detail, and then we're gonna do a fine detail. Okay, so that's texture 1. Texture 2. Here, I'm gonna try to find something that's a little bit finer detail. So this grunge roughness, these feel a little bit more finite. So we'll plug that in to texture 2. Come all the way back up to texture 2. I'll turn that on. And then I can go in and say, instead of overlay, maybe we can do multiply. Let's do another subtract. That's too much. Screen. let's invert this. Trying to find a good balance here. Yeah. So I'm liking the overlay here. It's going a little bit too far, so I'm going to bring my contrast in a bit. I'm going to bring my brightness in a bit. Yeah, I'm liking this because this. Okay, so right now this is looking a little bit too, to me, like, so this is how you can do like splatters, right? So right now this is feeling just a teensy bit too kind of bird pooey, for lack of a better term. Actually, no, it's not too bad. No, it's not too bad. But so this looks like more like paint chips than sun damage. Sun damage is usually pretty gradual. So what I'll do is I can add another filter. Add a filter, and I can just blur this a little bit. So once again, I'm going to do a... Oh no, I want to add the filter to my mask, not my color. Add filter. Always make sure you're adding your filters to the right thing. So I'm going to do... there's a couple things we can do. We can do blur. Slope blur usually gives you some really interesting... It kind of gives you like this kind of crackly pattern, which I kind of like sometimes. Like this is great for hand painted stuff because it looks like paint daubs. So you could go that way. You could do, let's just do a traditional blur. Just kind of blur that out just a little bit. And the great thing about all this is it's all, I haven't touched my paintbrush at all. I want to come in, I want to use different grunges, I want to use I want to use whatever. I can do any of that. So if I want to come in, I go to my art director, he's like, oh, this is too blurry. If you went to hand paint all this stuff, you'd be kind of up a creek, right? But now I can do this, right? And I can even do, if I did want this to look like paint, like pushed in paint, what I can do is I haven't touched my height. So I can take my height and I can pull that down. Oh no, there's no height data here, so it doesn't really matter. Okay. Let's go back to the blur. Still too much. So you can really start to combine a lot of data here. So what I could do, let's say that I'm just doing demos now. I'm not even like moving towards the end of this project. I always get caught up with this. Let's say I did want to do like this is dented in paint. Okay, so what I can do is, so since this is a pass-through layer, right? It doesn't have any data in it. Like I could set, like I can do whatever I want to this stuff, and it's not going to do anything because it's pass-through, because it's a paint layer and I haven't painted anything. So how do I use this information? I wanted that to be not slope blur, but blur. Right. How do I use this information in other spots? Okay, so this is where, and we'll come back to this again, this is where anchors come in. Anchors are wildly confusing, but very, 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 very powerful. Okay, so this anchor will basically allow me to let me use information from one part of substance in another part of substance. Okay, and you can always instance these across, and everything will work just fine. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna right click here, and I'm gonna say add anchor point, and I'll leave it as sun damage mask. So now this doesn't do anything. It didn't do anything to my mask, but what this allows me to do is anything above this can reference this information. Now, where does it come in handy? So let's say I did want to push these pieces in. Okay, say I wanted to push these pieces in. So I can go back to my trusty fill layer. I'm gonna grab my fill layer, and I can do just height. So I'm gonna click Alt and do height. So I'm gonna pull this height down. I'm gonna pull this down quite a lot, and I'll probably reel it back later. So what I can do now is I can do add black mask. Okay, and on this mask I can say fetch an anchor. So this mask, I can say, oh no, sorry, that generates a mask. I want to do another fill here, sorry. And this fill, I want to be an anchor. So I want to go, so basically this fill is saying, pull your information from this anchor point. And boom, there we go. So that's really, really severe. But if I bring this in, so now I got like, instead of sun, well, I meant to make sun damage, but apparently I just made like chipped paint, which is actually pretty cool. I could actually combine that with my sun damage. So if I turn on my old sun damage, so now I have chip paint and sun damage. So let's call this chipped paint. HSL. It's really, really important to name your layers. And we'll call this chipped paint. Pipe. Okay, so that works really well. So I'm just going to go ahead and group these guys together in a folder called chipped paint. Booyakacha. All right, so that's working pretty well. So I could leave it at just this one, or if I wanted to go across everything, probably do, yeah. So you can do this with groups as well. So you can do instance across texture sets, and I can say, give me all my texture sets. Okay. So now we can see, should have chipped paint. Yeah, so I have this chip paint on all my other texture sets as well. Let's go and make sure that it's there. So I'm going to Control Alt, right click, and yeah, chip paint instance there. If I solo this, should be able to see, turn this on and off. Yeah, so there's my chip paint. Just adds a little bit of extra detail to everything. So I got sun damage, I got chip paint, and it's all super procedural. Okay, what else did I do while we were away? Did my chip paint. Oh, I set up my, now I don't want my chip paint on, well, actually it kind of looks pretty good for this dome. I set up the dome, right? So, this is kind of tricky. So, I went to my, let's go to this guy. So this one's actually really, really simple. Most of the work for this is being done in the shader. So what I did is, just like in Maya, you have multiple shaders and multiple different types of, actually, yeah, you have multiple different types of shaders. Like in traditional Maya, you have like a Fong and a blend and Fong E. You have these different types of shaders that handle light differently. Substance is the same way. Just 99% of the time, you're just using this main shader here. But the thing is, in my texture set, I can tell this thing to use a different shader. So that is in, so if I select my texture set and I go over to that's my shader ball. I always forget where this is. I think it's under shader settings. There we go. So when I'm in my texture set, I can go grab this little shader ball with a gear by it. And I can tell, so I can do this PBR metal rough with alpha blending. I don't even think I need to do this, actually, but I just need an, so basically what I want to do is I want to control, if we go down to, I think I actually have to be in the render. Yeah, I have to be in the render mode. this will crank for a second. This is what so if I render mode, I know why you can't settings. So let me go ahead and stop this render before. Render controls. Shader setting. There we go. Oh, my computer's chugging. Just because I need that speed back. So streaming and rendering at all at the same time is never a good idea. So we're seeing that those little imperfections at the top, and it's giving it some really nice detail up top here. But what I want is if I go into let's move this up. Let's go to my display settings now. When I'm in my shader settings, so here, so I have this IOR. I have this refraction. So this is where all this is coming from. So if I turn this off and I say unpause, so that just goes black. So that's where all that refraction goes. The really thing about this is, for whatever reason, you cannot have opacity and refraction on a shader at the same time. If you have opacity, the refraction just won't work, and it won't give you an error. It won't say, hey, you can't put these two things together. It just won't work. So if you want to do glass, use refraction. Light 1.5 is a good kind of halfway point. So we're getting a little bit of distortion. Really render intensive. And then absorption color will basically tint this. So if I wanted this thing to be a little orange or a little red or a little green, we get something like that. Okay. So maybe I'll feel, because he's really warm, being a cool globe on him to accentuate like this. Glass in any software is difficult at best. So that's how you set up glass. I did closely here, kind of scattering. So for the brain, so let's. Okay, and let's show everything. Hide that. Control Alt, right click. Should take me to this. So for this one, my texture set, to set up subsurface scattering, so I now have an extra channel in here called scattering. So if we look at my layers, and I don't need this chip paint on here, so I can just get rid of that. Bang. And I don't think I need some damage either. Let's get rid of that as well. Okay. So I have my brain, which is basically a color selection here. So I turn that on and off. So it's got this color selection. And this guy has, let's go here, properties. So this has a fill layer that has everything except for scattering, and then it's got another fill layer that just has scattering, because I want to be able to control those two things. And I just turned it up to 11. So that's my fill layer. And then my wires, and then once you have this scattering, you have to do the same thing. So you have to have a different shader, right? Because I don't want subsurface scattering everywhere. So I have this subsurface shader applied to here. Okay. And you can apply those in, if you go to from here, I can do my shader settings, and I can say, where did I do I usually don't mess with shaders too much in Substance. So that's why I am where I am. Where do I put those? You can do shader settings and so if I go to here, somewhere it says assign new shader instance. I can never remember where it is because I don't do it that much. Ah, here we go. Shader instance. So I can say new shader instance, and that will make me a new shader. So some of this stuff is kind of scattered everywhere. Okay, so that's what that you would do, new shader instance, and then you would change your settings. So that's pretty much, not all, but that's the brunt of the stuff that I did over the break. Hey, Mythical. What am I using to make this? This is a combination of, up until now, we use ZBrush, we use Maya, and now we're in a program called Substance Painter. It's an amazing program. Okay. All right, so let's get on to some fun stuff. Let's get on to some decals. So I think most of my decals are going to be like on this part and maybe on the arms and maybe on the stomach. So let's start it with here. So what I've done, and hopefully this is generated on my thumbnails. If I go to my shelf, and these I went and got, I bought a long time ago this pack of textures. It's called Basic Signs. You can find this on, I think it's on Gumroad. If you're really interested, I'll link it in the description. But it has two kind of things. So it's got all these little, they're just like kind of like random kind of, like if you look at like Gundams now, they have all these kind of stickers all over them. That's what this is. So it just does like really cool like stuff. So there's a bunch of different ways we can use these decals. So I'll go from the simplest to kind of the more complex. Let me make sure I'm on the right texture set. Yeah, okay. So there's a bunch of different ways we can do this. So the first way that we can do this is through UVs. We can just build this just like in UVs. So there's two sections of this. There's the there's the decals, and there's the alphas. So I'm going to start with the alphas first. So let's say we want to put let's see. I like these little kind of hazard stripes, and I like these little kind of radioactive symbols. So I'm going to put some hazard stripes on one of these guys here, and I'm going to put the radioactive symbol on this guy here. Now, one way to do this is with projections. Now, I don't like using projections because they're not procedural, like you're just painting them on. But you know, for the sake of for posterity, I'll show you how to do it. So, what a projection does is it basically takes and puts an image, and it plasters it onto your viewport, and then you push data through that like a sift. So to do this, I'm gonna make a new, and this is a paint layer. So make sure here, I'm gonna do a paint layer, and I'll call this decal paint. Okay, so this paint layer, I have to set up everything I want to do on this paint layer before I actually do anything. And once that's set, I can't change it after I've painted on it. So for this paint layer, I'm going to go to my material settings. I want to paint color, height, roughness. I don't want to paint metallic, and I don't need to paint normal. So for my color, I want this to be kind of like this danger yellow. Or maybe do I want it to be like this orange? I think I'm going to keep with the yellow. I'm going to go with medium saturation, low value, or high value, low saturation. Let's bring these in. And yellows are always so hard because they go into baby poo real quick. Okay, so there's my color. I'm going to bring my height down a little bit. Or no, I want my height to go higher because I want it to be a sticker that's on top. So I want that to be there. And it's because it's a sticker, I want it to be quite smooth. So I'm going to bring my roughness way down. So what I can do is I can just paint on this now. And I get something like that. Now, the other thing I want is right now, if I paint on this, you're like, wait, but I put my height at this. Why am I getting this? Why am I being like, this is like I'm actually spraying a thin line on here. Right, a thin coat of paint. What I want is I want this to look like a sticker. So I want my height to completely replace the height that's underneath this. All right, so I can do that. I go to my height component and I can say, so this L dodge, this is adding height layers. One layer adds on top of another, adds on top of another. I don't want that. I want to completely overwrite my height. So I'm going to do normal. So now when I do this, you can see I'm just totally wiping out all that. So this is like a thick coat of paint. Let me buff that out. Right. But like I said, this is all paint. Like once I lay this down, I can't change it. Right? It's baked in. It's baked into the layer. Okay. So where do we go? How do we get our stencil? Okay. So I've set the thing I want to paint with. So I'm going to come over to my brush settings. So my alpha, generally when I'm painting stencils, I just get rid of that. So I have this hard line like that. And my stencil is right here. So what did I say? I want these hazard stripes. So I'm going to drag these hazard stripes over to my stencil, and immediately we get this. Okay. So if I hold down S, I can rotate this thing. So I'm going to rotate it a little bit, and right click will scale, and I think middle click will move. So I generally like to move my model into position first. So I'm going to do S, scale this up. Model there and just wipe it that. So there. So there's my little decal. Pretty cool. So you can do it this way. Like if I wanted to do more of these, and this is a very artistic way to do it. But let's say your art director comes back once again and he's like, oh, I don't like that yellow. Can you maybe make it a different color? You have to repaint this whole thing all again. I have no idea what this is happening, but yeah, that's pretty much how I go through life. So I can make a couple of these. Let's just do this, that one, and that one. Okay, so that's my stencil. Let's get rid of that so I can see. So now, if I want to add some grunge to this, I can do it the same way as I did before, right? So I can say decal paint. I can say add black mask, boom, and then I can add a to that black mask. I will create a fill. So I put this at 1, it gives me everything. I put it black, it gives me nothing. But now I can let's add some of those surface imperfections. So this is 16-bit pack. Let's grab damage. And yeah, I like this one. So I'm going to pull this damage in. So now this damage is beating this up like before. So if this is too kind of general, I can change the scale of it. I can change the rotation of it. I can change the offset of it. I can also add a levels. So basically, I can up the contrast of this. So let me get, yeah, there we go. Getting some damage. There. So as I'm doing this, I'm seeing that I'm getting a little bit of, I'm getting a lot of that height coming through. So this is more like paint. So if I wanted to keep basically, oops, let's clear, remove mask. If I want to keep this looking, but I wanted to chip away at parts of this, The other thing I could do is I can put this in a group. And I can mask that group. So add black mask. Now if I do this, right, I can paint that in there. But once again, I don't like painting. So this is just for general asset development. You could use this for a game. You could use it for animation. You could use it for, you know, advertising. You can use it for just renders if you want to do a paint over later. Yeah, you could use it. Yeah, you can use it for a lot of different stuff. So I'm gonna take and say add mask or add fill, and I'm gonna go ahead and grab this damage again. Put that in there. So now whatever you put inside of here is going to get that damage. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and let's go back. Add black mask. Add fill. And damage. And then I'm gonna go and add that levels. So I want to bring this in. So the closer these things get together, the more contrasty that image is going to be. So I want to keep it, so I want this to look like it's like chipped off. So I want my whites to be pretty white. So I don't want much gradual fade here. Yeah, that's nice. Find a good spot. There we go. All right, so that's one way to do it. But like I said, this is really not procedural. Like if I go, my art director comes in and he's like, okay, change the color of that, you're kind of up a creek. Okay. So what I like to do, so let's do this over here, is I like to use, you guessed it, fills and masks. I use fills and masks for so much work I do. So what I'm going to do now is, so let's grab this. Let's do another fill, and we'll call this decal procedural. Or we'll call this decal fill. So as we can see, this fill just kind of takes over everything. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to grab kind of that same danger yellow. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to bump my height up, pull my roughness down. I don't need metallic, and I don't need normal. Oh, I do need metallic, because these guys are metallic. So I'm going to keep my metallic at black. But I don't need normal. Okay, so now what I can do with this is I can do add black mask, add fill. And so since those signs, those alphas, are black and white, I can use those for masks. And this becomes super, super powerful. So I'm going to take this radioactive sign. Actually, I like this one here, because it gives me a little bit more information. So I'm going to take this radioactive sign, drop it on there. So now this is what's confusing. People are like, oh man, this is so weird. Like, why it's not doing what I wanted to. Now, you have to remember that this radioactive sign is being applied everywhere here. So if I look at this fill, if I look at the properties here, it's doing UV projection and it's repeating it everywhere. So I don't want it to repeat. I only want it to exist inside of this square. So now if I hold down shift, I can scale this down, and this is where having good UVs comes in. I can put this there. So not only is that way faster, right? It's procedural now. Like I was like, if my art director comes in, he's like, hey, I don't like, we have new graphics, right? There's supposed to be an explosive thing there. I can do this one, or this one, or this one, or like, it's so much more powerful. So much more powerful working like this than it is doing the hand painting thing. Swing my around. So I'm still getting, once again, I'm still getting that height from underneath. I want to take my height set that to normal. So now this is like a perfectly pristine kind of sticker that's been put on this. Super, super cool. I enjoy doing this stuff a lot. Like, because this is where it's fun. This is where it gets fun. You've done all the hard work. Now it's time to do the fun stuff and like kind of reap the rewards. So the other thing is, if I want to do multiples of these, I can do that as well. So let's do like a radioactive, and then I'm just gonna sticker this guy up. Let's do, what do we want to do? Maybe like a little explosives. Yeah, explosion. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do the same thing. So I'm gonna make a new fill. I wish I could duplicate my fills. That would be great. If I could do Control C, Control V here, that would be fantastic, but I can't. So I need to make another one. So say add fill. Okay, same thing. What did I say? I want the explosion here. Put that one there, and then say none, and then I'm gonna shrink this down just over here. Now, we are running into an issue here, right? Because just like Photoshop, this is layered, right? This is layered. So in general, this is fine, right? But let's say I wanted to make these two, like make this line kind of merge with that line. So this is a Photoshop layer. So if I look here, this is a Photoshop layer. That's a Photoshop layer. So what I can do is I can just do a screen, just like you do in Photoshop. If you want to put two things that are kind of the same color or that are light over each other, you can use a screen. So now I can merge these two decals into one decal. And I want to probably want to keep that little lip there. So this guy is super dangerous. He's radioactive and explosive. So that's cool. So I have my decals. So what I want to do is I want to do all of my decals, and I'm going to leave them all really pristine, and then I'll go in and I'll do the copy mask. Then I'll go in and I'll do my grungy stuff. So I'm going to do remove mask here. And this is what's really crazy powerful about Substance Painter, is this ability to be extremely procedural while being very, very visually artistic. So I have this stuff here. I have these guys here. So let's go ahead and do one more, maybe something like here, because this will allow me to do. I think you can duplicate when you right-click on the fill layer in the menu. So duplicate option. When you right-click on the fill layer, duplicate. Oh, that's to duplicate the layer. Yeah, I can duplicate my whole layer, but what I want to be able to do is just duplicate just this. Like I want to make a stack of these fills. So, yeah, no, there's no way to duplicate these guys. I wish there was. Like a copy and paste would be awesome. I can duplicate this. That's easy. Where is it? Duplicate layers. There we go. Cool. All right. So now, yeah. So decal, big decal here. So let's go with. What do we want? I feel like this should tell people what this thing is. Ooh, I like this. I like these barcodes. Definitely not a medical robot. I think I like these barcodes here. One of these barcodes. But it doesn't really matter because I can keep on changing them out as I need. So, I'm going to show this because I was incredibly sloppy with this part. Like, I made it way too small, and it's warped really, really badly. But no matter. There are ways around everything. So I'm going to drop this. And I'm going to make a new fill. I'm going to call this decal front. Or I'll call this decal projection. Okay, so same thing. Actually, you know what? I am going to, because I want that color, I am going to duplicate this guy. Actually, no, I don't have to duplicate this guy. I can do another, yeah, I can do another fill. Yeah, I can do another fill. So I'm going to do another fill on this guy. So I'm going to say add fill. And I'm going to do, what did I say? One of these guys here. So, boop. And same thing, repeat, none. So now, if I come in here and I try to put this guy on here, look how, this is stretching quite terribly. Find my front. And it's upside down. Oh. So ashamed. So ashamed of what I've done. But here, we look at this. Like, this is weird, right? It's like, because there's a lot of stretching in here, right? Right. So I want this to be kind of like plastered onto this. So there's another way. So right now we're using this projection. This is doing UV, right? So I can use, instead of UV projection, I can use real world projection. So I can project, just like a projector, I can hold a flashlight up to this and spray this pattern onto this object. So before I do that, I'm going to set all this stuff back to 1. So I want my scale to be 1 and my offsets to be 0 and 0. And I want my rotation to be 0. Because basically this is going to add on to everything else. So now here, instead of UV projection, I'm going to use planar projection. And if we look over here, my menus change. So now instead of placing the texture in my UV space, I'm placing my texture in world space. Hey, Raspberry, what's up, man? How you doing? I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Putting stickers on my little guy here. So now this is just like in 3D. So if I take this and I let's see, shrink this down. Move this over here, over there. And I think in Unreal this is called decals. They're called decals. So I'm getting a little bit of fade. So I think I need to pull this. I want to get this middle part here as close to that surface as I can. And the other thing is I'm probably getting, oh no, he's not getting anything on the back. Sometimes in some packages it'll project all the way to the back, but I think it's ending inside of this little square here. And maybe I can rotate this just a little bit so it's not perfectly aligned. Actually, I kind of like it aligned with this line. That works really well. Just a little bit bigger. So I think if I do, let's go into my fill, and I think if I do my scale, if I do my scale now, yeah, so this is going to scale it within that projection space. So that works really, really well. And so what it's doing, like this one is straight, whereas before this was straight and this was smeared, this is now straight and this is now smeared. So it's doing this reverse kind of transformation to this stuff. So this is actually really cool. And once again, like, it's all procedural, right? If I want to change this to that, I can do that. I can do that. Ooh, actually, I like this. I like this one a little bit better. Yeah, you can do this till the cows come home. Crippled by choice now. Oh no. It's like cargo. Oh man, it's all so good. It's all so good. Okay, make a decision, Bentley. Let's go with this. Let's go with this one. I like this. I like kind of like the sci-fi feel of this guy. Okay. All good. So we're back to here. So that looks really, really nice. So we're already adding these decals into here. Now, I think this decal is wiping out these guys, right? Because with projections, it's kind of everywhere. So I need to take and set this to screen as well. So I shouldn't yet. So as you stack, you need to make sure that your you can set it. I can set it to screen, or I can set it to add, because all this out here is black, and this is white data, and this is black here. Okay, cool. So this last one was a projection. So this one was UV, this one is UV, and this one is planar projection. Super duper duper dope. Okay. So now what I can do is, if I want, so now what I can do is I can bring back those grunges. So I wonder if I can just do this. Paste in a mask. Oh no, that just overwrites the whole thing. So I can do the same thing. So I'm going to do another fill, and I'm going to grab. Let's do. See what else I got in here. Surface imperfections, arc rolls, window, rain, scratches, scuffs. Scratches. Let's stick with our damage maps. Let's see. Damage maps. We'll plug. Ooh, I don't want a fill layer here. I want a fill layer here. Boom, boom, boom. And I'm going to take this damage, plug it in. And I'm going to set this to maybe multiply. Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. Now, I think what I'm going to do, I could do this, but like I did before, if I put a levels on this, it's going to affect everything else underneath it. So what I'm going to do, instead of putting that there, I'm going to put this all in a group. And then I'm going to do that with the group. So I'm going to say group. And we'll say decals. And I'll put this decal fill underneath here. And I'm going to take my decal paint and put it underneath there as well. Because I'm going to show you a third way to do decals here in a second. Now this third way is a little bit more complex, but still pretty cool. Okay, so decals, decal paint, decal fill. The fill over the paint doesn't really matter. And so now I can do add black mask, and the same thing. Add fill. It's the same tricks. It's the same tricks over and over again. So now in that fill, now this is only affecting this mask. So now I can do my levels. And I can squeeze this in. I can push this down. I want really contrast because I want this to look chipped, not worn. So I think I'm pulling away a little bit too much. And my height is getting set back to linear dodge, so I want to take that and set that to normal again. So this is chipping away a little bit too much, so maybe bring back a little bit. Yeah, I'm digging this level of chipping. How long have I been doing this kind of work for? Texturing, like building. I've been in visual effects for about 14 years. But as far as like Substance Painter didn't exist when I was younger, so it's a relatively new software, at least to me. So I think I've probably been doing texturing work like this for probably like 6 years, maybe 5, maybe, I don't know. I think maybe 5, 6. We'll say 5 years. It's very nebulous. All right. So the great thing about this is you're like, why am I going through all this trouble? Once again, it's completely, except for the painted one, the decal paint one. Like this is stuck. I can't change this. But this guy, and this guy, I could change those to whatever I want. So they're like, hey, maybe this should be, instead of an explosive sign, maybe this should be, whatever. I can swap that stuff out. And I probably should name each of these as well. So this is UV radioactive. But yeah, I shouldn't change those. So we'll call this UV1 and UV2. And projection 1. Because maybe that's not radioactive. Maybe it's that. Or maybe it's whatever, right? So you can do that all day. I forget which one I used before. There we go. Okay, so I'm gonna actually disable this mask. I'm not gonna remove it. I'm just going to toggle it off. I know I got it working, so whatever other decal I get is gonna get that same treatment. So this is what allows you to get like cohesive kind of looks to your work. It's because it's all getting the same grunge. Like this one isn't getting a different grunge, so it looks like it's all been weathered pretty much the same way. Now, this is just for like black and white stuff. Now, what happens? So there's these signs. Right? What happens if I want to use one of these, right? Where like it's not just it's like this whole thing, right? So let's do something like this, like a build, like a plate. Like a registry plate or something, like a sticker. Let's do that. Let's put a sticker. Let's go to this guy and I'll solve that. So I want to put a sticker right here, like a registry sticker, which I think these would be really cool, like a nice white sticker, right? Like it's just on the back of the head. So this is a little tricky. So this is going to take 2 steps. So each one of these is a .png file. So it has red data, green data, blue data, and alpha data, right? So one thing that Substance doesn't handle very well, or at least in my experience, it doesn't handle transparency and alpha very well. But there are ways around this. There's always ways around this because it's a nice, flexible program. So let's see. Okay, it looks like I have a pretty decent spot to put that right there. So I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm going to do a fill. So in this fill, I want color, I want height, I want roughness. I probably need metallic, I don't need normal, and I don't need emissive. So I'm going to take, let's do this, and plug that right there. Cool. Right, so I'm going to place this. There we go. For some reason, sometimes the thing turns off. All right, so I want to turn off my repeat. So if you ever get this where you're getting it over and over again, I want to turn off my repeat. None. Yeah, let me put this. As big as I can. Yeah, I'm an old man. I'm definitely an old man. Okay, so let's see. Why am I getting base color? That one in base color. My metallic should be 0. Okay, so I'm getting this sticker here now. So if I take my height up, right, it's only right? This is the edge of, like, so we can see this is the edge of the image here. So what I want, and like once again, I need to take my height here, and I need to set that to normal. Okay, so now I'm getting like that sticker look. Let's swing my light around. Okay, so how do I pull the alpha out of this sticker, right? And actually, I want to push that over just a little bit. And I'll kind of want it to make it look hand placed, so not completely straight. It's like somebody just went whap. This thing's done. Okay, so let's call this sticker color. Okay, so how do I grab the alpha out of this? I do this with yet another anchor. So I'm going to say right click and I'm going to say add anchor. So this is going to be sticker color, and there's my anchor. Okay, so that anchor is taking all the red value, all the green value, all the blue value. So it's taking all of that information. So now what I can do is I can pull this anchor value into, I wonder if I can do it just straight. Let's see if I can just do it just straight. I don't know if an anchors can reference their own, like, it's time to experiment. I don't know if anchors can reference their own file or their own layer. So let's just see. Let's do add black mask. And this black mask is going to be a fill. And that fill, I wonder if I can grab my anchor. Ooh, yeah, I can. Look at that sticker color. Bam. So by default, what this is doing is it's taking the luminance value of this guy. So maybe you want that, right? But I want this to look like an actual sticker, right? I want this stuff to also be raised. So in my sticker color, instead of base, I can take my base color and I can say extract alpha. Bam. So basically it's just saying, hey, grab that alpha and use it in my mask. So super, super powerful. Like crazy bonkers powerful. So now if I come back to this fill layer, I can push my height as much as I want. Actually, I can make it look dented in if I wanted to too. I can make this look like it was like, ooh, actually I kind of like that better. It looks like it's like they drilled out a section of this and then stamped it down. I feel like this is a little bit too big. Also, if you hold down Alt and Shift while you're scaling, it'll scale from the center. Or actually, it'll scale from the pivot point. Yeah, let's bring everything back. Yeah, it looks cool. I like that. Actually, I think I do want to make it bigger. Oh, and I like it tucked, like just tucked underneath there. So it looks like this was built, and then this was kind of like it's like this dude was like haphazardly put together. And then they just kind of slapped the helmet part on him. He was built quickly. Don't want to go too far on that height. It's cool. He's got like a little sticker on him. Now, I feel like I'm feeling like this is making him look too small. Right, I remember I wanted him to be about this high, right? I wanted him to be like a kid. Now, this is a huge sticker, so I think I'm going to bring this down a little bit. Yeah. That was making him look too... It was making him look like a toy, whereas this is making him look more like an appliance, which is kind of the size that I wanted. So I'm going to go back to this guy. I'm going to turn my mask back on. Toggle mask. And I'll use that same, actually, you know what I'll do? Is I'm going to take this, and I want to use this over here. So I wonder if I can I use anchors across? texture sets? Let's find out. So I'm going to make an anchor here. Add anchor point. Decals mask. And we're going to go to this guy. Sticker color. So I have one mask, one fill, grabbing the anchor of the sticker. So I'm gonna make another fill. I don't know if I can actually grab anchors across texture sets. Let's see. Anchor points. Yeah, I can't grab anchors across texture sets. So I'll just have to make a new one. So it's a fill. This is going to be damage. And let's do a multiply. Yeah, there we go. So it's a little bit. So with this, actually, I like that. It's like all beat up and kind of. It's all good. It's the same stuff. If I wanted to add a layer, add levels to this, I would put this inside of a group, and yeah. But I think like this is really nice. Like it's like all worn and beat up. Like it looks like when you try to scratch off a sticker and it doesn't quite all come off. So that's nice. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I think I want to add some character to my dome. So I'm going to get rid of this chipped instance. So what I want to do is just add some surface imperfections to this guy. What else do I want to do this? Oh, I wanted to add something to his chest. So I'll do that next. So we'll add some surface imperfections to the dome and then some to the chest, and that'll be fantastic. Okay. I don't think I need sun damage either. Sun damage isn't really doing anything for me. So it's mostly just this base color. And let's see, there's a reflection material, there's a transmissive, there's a glossiness. Does it read transmissive? Is the question. So transmissive is basically how much light things are allowed. How much light materials allow to go through them. So there's a transmissive, but I don't know if the shader actually reads this because this is kind of new. So how I'm going to test this is I'm just going to make, you guessed it, a new fill layer, and it's only going to be transmissive and it's going to be white. So it's going to be 100% transmissive. And so let's go to my render settings and see what that gives me. So I want to make sure I'm on this guy, solo that, which it doesn't work in render view, but we'll see. Let's pause my rendering and let's go to shader settings, alpha blending. I don't think that really matters. I can go back to, that's fine. So let's render this. And if I take my, yeah, I don't really think transitive does anything. So, what do I want to do this? my refraction away. So I won't get like the really cool light bending, but this will allow me to visualize my glass a little bit better. And from this texture set, I'm going to get rid of, I don't need transmissive anymore, so let's get rid of that. What I do need is opacity. Bang. So this is going to be OP. So in my opacity, so I'm going to say opacity, and we're going to set this to like really low. So here I can start to see this in the viewport. So this is a trade-off, right? You get like this, you can see in the viewport, but it's not physically accurate. This is probably a better way to do it anyway. Okay, nice to meet you. Okay, so that's what I want to do with this, right? So let's see. I don't think scattering. I don't think any of this does anything anymore. Yeah, so I'll just turn all that down. Right. Let's go back to our viewport, and I'm going to take my opacity almost all the way down, or maybe just a little bit. And actually, my glass base. Let's see if I make this black. I think that'll be better, because I won't get that tint of white. It'll just be pure clear. So now here you can really see that that subsurface scattering. All right. So let's see. I don't think I want it to be completely black. And give it a little bit of color. So this is what I was talking about before. If I were to want to come back to my rendering settings, and I want to, as far as I understand it, won't work. Yeah. So yeah, so I'm getting like this kind of like little halo. There's opacity on it. So if I go back in, I think I can just turn it off. And now if I come back to my render, should be, yeah, so that's there. So even if I can't have opacity at all, so I have to actually, like if I want to get rid of this, I need to get rid of the layer, and that should go back to 1.5. And then this has to be, I believe, this needs to be white. There we go. So now we're getting that bending. It's a trade-off. I think they're working like in substance. So once again, if I go back, if I that's my glass. If I make another fill layer, and I make this just opacity, turn that down. I don't think I can get the best of both worlds, sadly. So sad. But anyway, that's how. But I want to. I'm not doing this for a production render. Hopefully, eventually, we'll take this onto Unreal and do some real-time rendering, which you can do refraction in there. So that's what I'm gonna do. So this is gonna be OP base. So I'm just gonna hide this for now. And glass, I want to make that pretty dark. Okay, so I just want to put some like little dust scratches and stuff, because right now this thing is like perfectly smooth. So I'm gonna do another fill layer. This is pretty much back to basics. This is going to be roughness, So how to control my roughness. And I can do some, let's do dust. Let's do some little dusty bits here. And I want to view my roughness, so I'm going to do C. So there's my roughness. There is my roughness channel. I want to set this to triplanar because right now I can see this seam on. Is this used as a sort of plugin in Maya, or is it a completely different? This is a completely different software. So eventually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to spit all of these textures out and either use them in Maya or in I can use them in Maya. I can use them in Houdini. I can use them in Unreal. I can use them in Unity. Like pretty much once you spit out the textures, you can use them in wherever you want. So that's coming. Okay, so I want to set this to not for UV projection. I want to use triplanar. So now we can see that guy is. Bring this down. Okay, and let's do. Yeah, so this is getting like super smooth and not smooth at all. So for this fill layer, so I'm gonna call this roughness. So let's go back to my material view, and so we can see like these little kind of pock marks. But I don't want this to be so reflective, right? So to bring that up, I'm going back to my channels. So I go back to my roughness. I don't want this to go completely black. I want it to be dark gray, but I want it to be completely black. So I'm going to do a levels. My level, I'm going to set to work on my roughness. So the darkest this thing can get right now is 0. So if I bring this up, so the darkest this can get is, let's say 0.1. The brightest this can get is 0.8. So I'm basically taking contrast out of this. So now when I go back, like I can see this happening. So I can do that. So I'm basically just playing with these black and white values. Once again, it's completely procedural. If I don't like this, I can just start to cycle through until I get something. Ooh, I don't know. It's kind of nice. I want a general kind of feel. Actually, I kind of like that one. And this is what's great about this software is it allows you to kind of set up a system and then make artistic decisions around that system. This one's all right. I think if I go into color space, I'm going to set this to linear. Yeah, it's giving me a little bit more detail. Yeah. All right, cool. So that's that. And so if I turn my opacity back on, so this is why I'm turning my opacity off because it's really hard to tell what's going on with it off or with it on. So do that. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to add some little scratches and actually, you know what? I'm going to do another roughness on here. Let's go to roughness. So I'm going to duplicate this. So this roughness is set to normal. I'm going to duplicate layer, and that's going to be a roughness. And so I'm just going to swap out this guy. So I'm going to have two different types of noise on this. And maybe let's do some fingerprints. See what that gives me. Let's go back to view, our channel. So those are really big. So let's bring these. Yeah, so I want them to, like if these are thumbprints, I want them to be about the size of a human hand. So, up there. And so that's just kind of overriding everything. So I'm going to set this to screen. And so now I can take my levels, play with my levels, see which one, how these kind of come through. So you can see that's what the great thing about this is like I got this little, I got like this little wire here, and I have like little fingerprints. So let's go back to my material, see what that does. Oh yeah, that's feeling good. Cool. So now I'm just going to add some little scratches and such. Let's go down to surface imperfections, scratches. Yeah. Some pretty long scratches. Yeah, those feel good. Like these here. So these actually, like this pack actually comes with a normal. So I can actually use that in the normal map, which is really cool, which I haven't really done very much. So let's do that. So make a fill, and I want only normal. And I'm just gonna take the scratches here, it's normal, and just drop it in there. I think this is pretty subtle, so I'm gonna look at my channels. So there are my scratches. So they're way too big. So I'm gonna do the same thing. So scratch. So I'm probably making this guy way too dirty, but I can always pull it back. I can always pull the beat up stuff back later. This is what the danger. This is why whenever you see stuff made in Substance Painter it's like filthy, is because it's so much fun to add like dirt and grime to stuff. So my scratches, I'm gonna do triplanar once again. I'm gonna see, maybe bring this down. And we can do M. So I'm not getting a lot of data out of this scratch map. See. Oh yeah, I'm getting a little bit. It's very subtle. Very subtle. So I feel like also these are coming out instead of going in. So what I can do with that is I just need to flip my green channel, and then they'll go the other way. So I'm going to do a levels. And levels. We're going to do normal. And we can do green. And we can do invert. So now those are going to be going in and not out. Okay. So we got our scratches, we have roughness, 2 levels of roughness, we have our opacity. So now, the last thing I want to do to this dome is I want to put some dirt on it. Okay. So I'm going to do pretty much the same thing. Let's see if I can do... I think I have some colored dirts in here. Like this one, I want to be all about using like external stuff that you can find online. So I have these colored dirt maps in here. And so these are really nice. They might maybe be a little bit too dirty, some of them. But I'm pretty sure these also come with alphas in them. So I'm going to do the same thing as I did for my little sticker down here for my dirt up here. So it's the same tricks over and over again. So I'm going to do, we'll call this dirt. And and this is going to be color. I don't want, oh, it is going to be opacity. I want normal, metal, and roughness. So I'm just going to grab one of these muds. So I think maybe this one's feeling good, so I'm going to put that as the base color. And I'm going to set this to linear. I get some of that color back because it's 16 bits, not 8 bits. I'm going to set my triplanar projection. Get some nice details in there. And so for my opacity, how do I want to do this? Oh, I'm going to do the same thing. So opacity for this is going to be 1, right? Because my dirt, actually, you know what? My dirt is not going to be completely opaque. It will be, you know, a little see-through. Just a little see-through. It's not super caked on dirt. You can see a little bit of stuff through it. But what I am going to do is, I think this has an alpha channel in it. I'm not really sure. Let's find out. So I'm going to say create an anchor. There's dirt. And I'm going to make a, just like before, black mask, add a fill, and then see if that anchor is opacity. Yeah. So there's my opacity. So if I want to strengthen this, I can just add a filter. Or no, not a filter, a levels. So it's the same stuff over and over again. So if I want to make this, I want to make this more stark. So this is where my dirt's going to be, or this is where my dirt is not going to be. This is where my dirt is. And then where this is white, I'm going to be able to see through it just a little bit. There we go. So maybe that's a little bit too contrasty. Or maybe not enough contrasty. Depends on how grimy you want this thing to look. So if we go more, we can let the dirt be a little bit more see-through. And then my dirt is also should be super, super rough. And maybe you can add just a smidge of height. Just a little touch. Give this a little bit of lift to it. So the other thing I can do, like this is just kind of uniformly dirty. We could define the dirt to be in the cracks. We could define it to be at the top. So let's do another mask generator. And let's just put it like, it's kind of everywhere, right? So I kind of want, we did directional masking. So let's do, you know, crevice masking. So I'm going to make, actually I'm going to make this dirt super opaque because I'm going to knock it down a lot. And I'm going to take my levels and maybe play with this a fair bit. Okay. So I want this dirt to just be like in this little crevice here. So that is going to be another mask generator. So I could do that on here. Yeah, I'll do it on here, and then I'll multiply it down. So Add generator. Generator. And I could just use dirt. Like, that might work. Let's see. Let's go to mask. Yeah, so I'm getting a lot of masking in here. I think in my actual dirt. Let's look at our dirt generator. Let's do true. So it's mostly focused in these crevices. So let's take, and I want to focus most of it right down in that crack, like right there. So we're getting a little bit of the occlusion from this guy, which is fine. Let's see, let's do some contrasting. Do grunge amount, pull that down, because we're getting most of that from the grunge. Scale. So this is all kind of built in, but we're using it in a unique way so it won't look so slapped on. Great. So now basically I can take this, if I turn this off, so that's my my base grunge, and this is my kind of control, so I can take and do a multiply on this guy. So now I'm breaking up that inner piece. Let's go to M. So now you just get to start to play with things. So this is a little bit, I think that's dark enough. This is the multiply. Let's pull this way down. That does not seem to be affecting this. Fill levels. Oh yeah, it is. It is. There we go. Getting a little bit of that dirt down in that crevice. So yeah, he's probably a little bit too dirty overall. So I can always take my opacity and bring this down. I can take my overall opacity, bring that down. Just want a hint of some speckling, and I don't want him too nasty. Yeah, dope. So that's my dirt. Let's see. What's the last thing I want to do? I want to add a little bit of kind of like where these bolts are. The last thing, I'll just add a little bit of wear around those, and then I think I'm gonna call this. Actually, no. What did I want to do? I want to put something on his chest. What should I put on his chest? Let's see, got some sci-fi patterns here. Let's see what we get. I don't think none of this is really talking to me. Seems a little bit too. Actually, that's kind of nice. Can I do with that? No, this stuff is too busy. No, okay. Let's go back to our decals. There's something right on his chest. let's see, what do we use? We use radioactive. Maybe we'll put another big radioactive thing, like right on his stomach right here. Yeah, let's do that. A big old radioactive symbol right on his stomach. Oh yeah, that's the sticker. Okay. All right. So let's do the same thing. So another. Actually, you know what I can do? Is I can just duplicate. No, oh no, I'll do it from scratch. Sticker. Say belly sticker. All right. And let's see. I'm gonna do the same thing. So I'm gonna take this guy, throw that in the base color. I might have to do. Oh, that actually makes it really cool. Happy accent. So let's see. UV projection. Do not repeat. This is really big. Let's see, where's his stomach? Just there. Yeah, it's pretty good. Oh yeah, I actually like that. Pretty nice. Okay, so I'm gonna do the same thing. So my belly sticker, make an anchor. And bring my, let's see, I don't need. A missive. That would be cool if I could make it glow, but I don't think I have time to do that right now. Metallic, roughness. So once again, set my roughness, or no, my height to normal. And I want to take my height and pull this up a little bit. So there's my sticker edge. Chernobyl bot. Yes! Kortex from Chernobyl. That's awesome. So I'm going to take my height and bring it up. Take my roughness, bring it down. Got almost very, very reflective. And my mask is here. So make a black mask. Add a fill. And then anchors. Belly sticker. And then I want to extract. Super duper cool. Let's bring everything back. Oh yeah, actually I like that. But here's the thing: I don't really like that. It's kind of oblong. So I think I'm gonna go with my planar projection instead of my UV projection. So the great thing about this, you can always switch if one doesn't work. So let's do planar, and let's set all this back to, this goes to 1, this goes to 0, this goes to 0. So the question is, do I want this on his stomach or do I want it on his chest? Let's see. Yeah, I think I like it better on his chest. Like, he's supposed to be a villain, so when you tend to put things on people's bellies, makes them look a little like a Care Bear. They don't look like Jesus, that's dark. Okay. I'm glad you guys are enjoying yourselves. So I'm just gonna rotate this a little bit so it's like kind of, I want to make it to look like basically perpendicular to that surface. It looks like it's hitting the back of his neck a little bit, so I'm going to shrink this down so it's just on the surface there. And that's all stuck inside of him, so I'm not super worried about that. Yeah. I wonder. Let's throw some emissive on this. What's this going to look like? Ooh, if I take my emissive, I can use that same guy here. Yeah, I can make that glow a little bit. That's dope. Cool. Yeah, that's actually kind of nice. So now I got glowing eyes. So I have this nice triangle. It's glowing belly, accent. Yeah, so let's do a like that. But what I want to do is I want to get a little bit of bleed out here. So I'm going to do add a filter. And I'm only going to apply this to my emissive. And I'm going to blur this a little bit. So maybe not that much, but just a little bit of blur on the emissive. There we go. So that looks really nice. Especially if I go in and start to turn on some of my post-processing stuff, like my blooms and things like that. They'll look really good. So let's go ahead and do that, and we'll finish up. So we've gone over a lot today. We went over masking. We went over using external assets. We went over anchoring. We went over controlling your roughness. Oh man. Would Animation Studios accept Substance Painter since it has UDIMs, or would they just stick with? They'll probably stick with whatever they're already using. The great thing about this is Mari and Substance are very, very close. Like Mari is, it's in my opinion, it's more powerful, but it's more complex. It's harder to get in and start making cool stuff really, really fast. That being said, it handles bigger texture sets way better. Like it was designed, it was built for that. It was built to handle 16K. 32K texture sets, whereas Substance is kind of starting to get there because Substance was originally designed for game engines, so it's starting to become more and more useful. So let's go and let's turn on where am I post processing? Activate post effects. So let's do. Don't want subsurface scattering. I want glare. Yeah, there we go. So pull this down. Ooh, no, too much. So you get a little bit of glow on there. Let's turn my threshold way down. Actually, turn my threshold up. Let's just do bloom. So yeah, we get a little bit of bloom in there. I can also turn my emissive up. That would be in my shader settings. Emissive intensity. Let's push this. Whoa! Oh, that's awesome. Wow! This type of stuff is really good. It's really fun. That's too much. Too much of a good thing. That's fantastic. That's great. And even if I take my environmental exposure and I start to turn that down, you're really starting to see this guy's character come through. Awesome. So that is the Wednesday night, day, morning, whatever you want to call it, stream. Went through a lot today. It's the new year. I'm digging where this guy is going. I'm almost done. I think I'm gonna almost call this. I'm gonna call this pretty much finished. Yeah. So next steps in the following weeks are going to be. I need to decide where I want to take this guy. Do I want to take him into the most comfortable thing for me would be to take him back into Maya and render him Arnold. But I am not about staying in my comfort zone. You should not be about staying in your comfort zone. I think we're going to jump into Unreal. I think I'm going to try to jump into Unreal. I'm not a real-time rendering guy. I need to become a real-time rendering guy because apparently this is the future and I need to get on the horse or get run over. So I'll do some research, and next week we will jump into rendering this guy in Unreal. And so if anybody's watching this and you are an Unreal expert, I'm going to make tons of mistakes. Please feel free to contact me and be like, hey, you don't know what you're doing, because it's new territory for me. No one can know everything. All right, that's it. This is where we're at with the Kortex bot. I'm really digging where he's going. I might add a little more stickers and things like that between the streams, but that's it for today. Happy New Year. Happy coming up Chinese New Year. Happy holidays that just finished. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.